We got a lot going on a Monday. Welcome in. It's the Chris Duel Show with Shannon Salty Sweeney, Dave Ayler, your soundscape stylist. Shannon, football weekend. Yeah, we kind of dipped our toe into football, but, we got to see a little bit of college action. We got to see sunshine. Trevor Lawrence looked very good against the Dallas Cowboys 2s and 3s. How was your weekend?
It was good. It was I don't even want to call it a full appetizer. It's more like tapas, but I only got to try one of them. Because we did have live meaningful football. You and I went 1-2 apiece on our picks.
Yeah.
For the weekend, so not the best start, but it's always hard the first week when you don't really know what you're looking at and what you're working with, especially after last year where everything was just so crazy. But it was nice, to see those first couple of games. But this is the week, Chris. This is the moment we've actually been waiting for.
Yes.
And it's finally here.
Well, and Shannon, I was thinking about our picks, and you and I, Nostradamus will not have to come back from the dead based on the weekends you and I had with our picks. But I was thinking about that after I realized that both you and I went 1 and 2. Now, I'm no math major. However, they emphatically do call that week 0. So I'm just, you and I may have to decide. I think maybe we need to just toss that week 0 out.
Our preseason.
Yeah, that's everybody needs a preseason. Yes. Plus they didn't even call it week 1. I mean, you could make if it was really week 1 and I wanted to throw out the first week, then you'd say, dude, that was week 1. You can't do that.
And you could also make the argument, we went 1 and 2 apiece. So as far as our tally score, it's not like it would give either of us an advantage or disadvantage to say, let's just throw those out.
Exactly. If you were 2 and 1 and I was 1 and 2, or you were 3 and 0 and I was, then you say, hey, no, we're not throwing it out because we have a leader here. We don't have a leader, and it was just weird. But I was happy, and I picked them, and we'll talk more about Illinois with Jeff Traylor, the UTSA head football coach. Is a spectacular interview. He's going to join us at 8:35 as his highly touted UTSA Roadrunners. Now that we've seen Illinois play and beat Nebraska, that's going to be an even more difficult contest for UTSA in Champaign-Urbana. But there's a part of me, and this goes way back to when Nebraska was good, and I know they've been really mediocre under Scott Frost, and if he was on the hot seat going into that game on Saturday, he's even more on the hot seat now. But there's a part of me, when Nebraska loses, I get a warm feeling inside. I don't know what it is.
It's got to be the ties back to the conference that they were once a part of. And, you mentioned Jeff Traylor. Illinois played with their backup for most of that game. Their quarterback got knocked out pretty early, so curious as far as how much scheme that might change for UTSA. And then Nebraska side, not only did they lose, but they did it to themselves. I mean, especially the first half was filled with such self-inflicted wounds. I mean, the safety, and then, towards the end of that first half, the quarterback, I guess he thought he was going down. I guess he thought he was throwing it away, but it ended up being a scoop and score to end that half for Illinois, and there was just no coming back at that point. Because up until then, I mean, it really wasn't that crazy of a game. Nebraska just kept kind of shooting themselves in the foot over and over and over again.
Yeah. So, and you brought up Scott Frost, and, Nebraska had hoped he would solve a lot of their problems, with his previous successful ties to that university. Somebody brought up to me, in Nebraska's heyday, when Nebraska was really, really good, we didn't have nearly as many television. Nebraska was on TV a lot, and you didn't have as much of a saturation of football games, college football games on TV all the time as you do now. And that today, especially because they haven't won lately, getting a talented young 18-year-old who's going to be a stud football player for the next 4 years or 5 to go to Nebraska, Lincoln, Nebraska, is a tough sell. So that makes sense to me, that it's not as easy to get a kid to go out in the middle of the cornfields of Lincoln, Nebraska, where it's freezing cold in the winter, when that kid can go to the SEC, can go to Austin, Texas, can go to USC, can go to Arizona. That's I get it. You know, obviously Ohio State, it's also cold in Columbus, but given all the success they've had recently, I think I kind of get it that it's tough to get kids to go to Nebraska these days.
These days, I would argue all the time, given that it's, I don't know, you know, you're on TikTok, but there's a lot of Nebraska jokes of like, how far would you travel for your girlfriend? Oh, I travel all over the world. And they go, what about Nebraska? Oh, hell no. So I get it. It's kind of been the butt of all jokes, and you know, we'll see if, I don't know what that, you know, we talk about all the NIL deals that are coming out. I haven't heard of any big ones coming from Nebraska, so that could be hurting them too. That they don't have a lot of companies there that are grown locally to then hand over some cash to those kids.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens with the Nebraska Cornhuskers, and maybe it's time to do an over-under on when Scott Frost loses his job. We stream live video, and a lot of people are already joining us this morning. Good morning to Tracy, Hector, Anthony, Andrew, Lucinda, Wes, Sam, Brian, John, Luisa. Luisa Alanis says the Cowboys sucked. Should have declared COVID protocol and not played. No starters. Now, somebody did. One of the Cowboy reporters who has reported for years on the Cowboys might have been Calvin Watkins. I saw somebody tweet yesterday because Cowboys fans were gripping because the Cowboys got blown out in a preseason game to the Jacksonville Jaguars. And this reporter said, hey, 2/3 of the players who will start for the Cowboys opening night at Tampa Bay did not play in this game. And that's a very true point. Most of we don't know what we have yet. My friend Steve texted me after the preseason game. He said, I'm very worried about the Cowboys. I've got a very bad feeling about them. Well, you can have a bad feeling about them, but you can't base it on what you saw, A, really in the preseason, and B, certainly you can't base it on what you saw yesterday against Jacksonville. I mean, 2/3 of the starters not playing. That was kind of a junior varsity team playing the Jaguars yesterday.
Yeah, if you have any bad feeling, it should just be based on the fact that you don't know what you're getting.
Yeah.
Come week one, because you haven't seen the full-fledged ones play together yet. You know, like you mentioned, there were a couple that played throughout preseason, but it really wasn't much, and it was kind of the hodgepodge that you ended up getting towards the end of last year with so many injuries. So it's going to be hard. You know, I'm interested. We've got cut week this week. Obviously, we'll get to see a lot of it on Hard Knocks in the last few episodes. But they played all three quarterbacks, not named Dak Prescott. And, you know, I think Garrett Gilbert has, of those three, secured the backup gig. And I just don't know who you cut. I go back and forth of who's worse between Ben DiNucci and Cooper Rush. Because Cooper Rush went out there and he couldn't buy a first down.
Yeah.
He could not afford one. It just didn't happen. I think Garrett Gilbert ended up getting the first down for the Cowboys, and then it went away all too quickly. Like it was an awful game overall. It was hard to watch, and I understand that they were playing the Jaguars, who have suffered throughout preseason, and they look like they don't know what they're doing, and the Cowboys made them look like they had it a little bit more together than they have in recent games. But again, preseason, I'm not worried about it.
Yeah, you make an interesting point about, do you cut DiNucci or do you cut Cooper Rush? Cooper Rush has been in the league and in that Cowboys system many years longer than Ben DiNucci. As much as I've been down on Ben DiNucci, and he was certainly no superstar again yesterday, you know, Ben DiNucci may still, because he's younger and he was a rookie a year ago, he may still have a bigger upside if he can learn the system and if he can grow as a quarterback in the National Football League. I think we can pretty much assume now, given the body of work and the years that Cooper Rush has been a part of this Cowboys system at quarterback, that he's not going to grow. Cooper Rush is what he is, and he is what you're going to get. Whereas an argument could be made, hey, Ben DiNucci coming off his rookie year, last year was a debacle and a disaster. And yes, Ben DiNucci did not have a stellar preseason, but he's still a rookie plus a preseason. And you can also argue that last year's rookie year, with COVID and not real practices and a lot of Zoom meetings instead of on-site meetings and practices, wasn't even a full normal rookie season for Ben
Mhm.
DiNucci. Now, I don't really like either of them, and to be honest with you, I like you, I agree that Garrett Gilbert of the three is probably the best choice for backup quarterback, but that kind of leads us to our poll question of the day. And I saw even some people yesterday, CJ Beathard came in as the third quarterback for Jacksonville. Even one of the Cowboys beat writers posted, should the Cowboys try to trade for CJ Beathard as their backup quarterback? Because Jacksonville, Trevor Lawrence is the man. We had some Gardner Minshew news over the weekend that we'll get into. He's no longer in town in Jacksonville. We have to hate Gardner Minshew now because he's an Eagle, but Jake Luton is the apparent backup to Lawrence. So you got your number one and your number two, but CJ Beathard, 5 out of 10, 86 yards, looked decent out there at times, and he's started some games in the National Football League. So, Shannon, our poll question has something to do with the Dallas Cowboys backup quarterbacks.
Yeah, now that we've seen a lot of it and of what we've got to offer during preseason, we're asking if you're happy with the Cowboys backup quarterback situation. Yes, we're fine, or no, find a better backup. Currently, 100% of voters saying no, go get somebody else. And I think a lot of people were, the Gardner Minshew name was floating around there, and too little too late, Cowboys, because he is now with the Philadelphia Eagles.
And you look at, and I don't have it in front of me, but when you look at what the Eagles gave up for Gardner Minshew, that's certainly, it wasn't a big price to pay.
Like a 6th-round pick, right?
Yes, I think off the top of my head, it was something like a 6th-round pick. Certainly something the Cowboys could have done.
Yeah.
And my God, Gardner Minshew is a guy who was in the conversation as to does he or doesn't he start for the Jacksonville Jaguars this year. And he beat out Nick Foles at Jacksonville. And you can't give up a 6th-round pick to bring that dude in and have a quality, much, to me, higher quality backup than the guys you have there right now.
It's for Jerry starting things off this year with "I will do anything to win a Super Bowl." I haven't seen it. So I don't quite believe it yet.
And it's kind of, other than when they got Dak to back up Tony Romo, and right away that paid dividends, it's kind of been this way in Dallas. There's not, and this has always been one of my pet peeves with them, Shannon, and I bring it up a lot, and I know I sound like a broken record, but you've got to have a very good backup quarterback. And in the Cowboys case, this is a $5 billion business. And I know that isn't really applicable because the Cowboys have pretty much been mediocre since 1996. And Jerry has still turned this into a $5 billion empire. But I mean, think of all the more money, Jerry, you could win. You'd win a damn Super Bowl. And your insurance policy right now looks like his name is Garrett Gilbert at quarterback.
Yeah, I was thinking about this last night, and you almost wonder if the Cowboys are thinking, well, we tried that last year by having a veteran backup, and look where it got us. It's like, yeah, but things that were out of your control, the COVID year, so the backup didn't get preseason to work within that offense. I mean, he got thrown out when Dak got injured. He then had COVID himself. He got a concussion again, things that, just happened to him. It's not like he could really prevent them. And one thing kind of led to another. And so I think that's where that came from. And so to say, well, we tried that, why bother again? Why waste the coin, whatever, on a veteran? I don't like the excuse, but I'm curious if that's somewhere in the back of their minds and why they're trying to stick with these, I guess, younger, more impressionable guys that they can eventually mold into their own. I mean, we see how much love DiNucci gets from Mike McCarthy, and maybe that's what'll win him over and get him a roster spot. I know that we only get to see what they don't put on the cutting room floor, so we don't know how affectionate he is towards Mr. Cooper Rush. But if I'm taking that alone, I feel like he's willing to put in the effort in DiNucci rather than go out and find somebody else. And then also, I was thinking about the rumor of Deshawn Watson continues to circulate is he on the trading block and where will he go? And this week, it seems like he could be heading to Miami if he goes anywhere.
That's going to be interesting as well.
I don't know if they make that trade, if the Texans would look for a quarterback in return, or if they would take something else. And if those quarterbacks remain, do the Cowboys try and go after JT Brissett or Tua?
Yeah, wouldn't that? Yeah, I mean, any of the above. Just give me somebody who has a chance at being dynamic at quarterback if you need him. Coming up, we've got the high five play of the day, and I know I'm seeing some people commenting on another quarterback situation, that being the Texas Longhorn starting quarterback situation. We will dive into that. We'll try to maybe get into that in the next segment after the high five play of the day. We now know who the starting quarterback will be for the Texas Longhorns. Dave Ayler, your Soundscape stylist, we will meet him officially coming up, as I mentioned, 8:35. UTSA head football coach Jeff Traylor, who is single digits and less than a week away from his big season opener against Illinois at Illinois. And we got tickets to give away later this morning. In fact, right around just after 8 o'clock, before 8:30, Coheed and Cambria coming to Austin. We've got your tickets right here this morning. We are with you until 9 o'clock this morning. Join us on the live video feed via Facebook, YouTube, or Twitch. And phone lines are open. You want to sound off on anything sports, anything we're talking about. We love talking with you in the morning. 800-707-9760. She is the salty one. Shannon Salty Sweeney, her salty shakedown coming up in the 7 o'clock hour. Dave Ayler making the show go. I'm Chris. It's the Chris Duel Show. Steve DeRocco, good morning. Steve, I referenced you on the air a moment ago because you sent me the text saying you have a bad feeling about the Cowboys this year. I had to straighten that camera out. Beth Settle, good morning, and you were up early. Let's see, roll call of the people I see. Tracy Bogert, great to have you in here. Chairman of the Bexar County MAGA Republicans and coronavirus deniers. Welcome in, Tracy. And he's also the Bexar County Vice Chairman of the Governor Greg Abbott re-election campaign. Hector Gomez, good morning. Anthony Del Toro, Andrew Guevara, Lucinda Sullivan with a coffee cup emoji. I'm going to go get some coffee in a moment. Lucinda, thanks for the reminder. Wes Perkins, Sam Tobias, Brian Mendoza says Boomer Sooner. Brian, you must turn in your Texas citizen card if you're rooting for a team in Oklahoma. Just saying. John Williams, good morning. Luisa Alanis. Did I say Anthony Del Toro? If not, I just did. Neff Ozuna. Dave Emilio Castanuela. She's always easy for me to pronounce. All right. Where's my coffee? Where's my coffee cup? I think it's over here. And for Jeff Traylor, I did bring in my Bible. They call this the Bible. Dave Campbell's Texas Football, which predicts the UTSA Roadrunners to go 10-2. If you're going to go 10-2, you should probably beat Illinois in the opener. I am going to nuke my coffee back in 90 seconds or less. Or less. Jesse Bratton, welcome in. Yeah, Tracy, I hope you're right. Alex Bregman came back. They're getting a pitcher coming back. His name's slipping my mind at 6:32 in the morning. Yeah, they need to get red hot in the month of September. Here, Tracy, I've even got my Astros standings written down. They open up. They've got 32 games left. They're 77-53. Nothing but the finest in high-tech gadgetry for me. An index card in ink. Oakland is 5.5 back at 72-59. They open a series tonight at Seattle. Seattle is technically still in the running, but they would have to kind of sweep the Astros here. So hopefully the Astros go on a run. See, I carry this in my pocket, so I always know. It's like, wait a minute. What's the Astros record? Oh, that's right. I got it in my pocket on my index card. You kids and your internet. So, yeah, hopefully, we saw the Yankees kind of explode and go on that winning streak. And granted, they acquired a bunch of guns by the trading deadline. So hopefully, the Astros, so many veterans, I think they kind of, I don't want to say wait to turn it on for the playoffs, but as postseason approaches, because so many of those guys, Bregman, Correa, Altuve, and others have been to the promised land and been very deep in the playoffs and in the postseason. Hopefully they're going to become very, very focused and do what they do, which is really perform well. John Williams says, how about some Andy Everett? Andy will be here on Thursday. We're now going to do Andy on Thursdays because we're going to do Jeff Traylor on Mondays. So Jeff Traylor, kind of the previous week, although there isn't one this week, and then the upcoming week, and then Andy on a Thursday to kind of preview UTSA football and what's coming up, or golf, or the latest on ABBA, or Katy Perry. All right, let me see if I can. Yeah, John Williams, I echo that. Prayers for New Orleans. I was checking the coverage this morning. Apparently, one fatality currently in the state of Louisiana. That will probably go up as the sun comes up this morning. Apparently, the hurricane pounded Louisiana for 16 hours without dropping to below a hurricane. So it just dropped to a tropical storm this morning, like in the 5 o'clock hour. So Hector Gomez, good morning. Anthony Del Toro. Yeah, good point, Tracy. The Saints practicing at AT&T Stadium. We should get into that. Andrew, that is nice of you, but Dave Ayler gets up earlier than I do. He may be the hardest working guy. I almost was today. They were almost, if radio stations were down or had issues in New Orleans or Baton Rouge, my boss was going to enlist me to do hurricane coverage for Baton Rouge and New Orleans after the show today. Apparently, at this point, that's not going to happen. Sam Tobias, God bless you. All praise. Gregory Charles Popovich and Thomas Wade Landry. Praise them together. Wes can't really buy the challenges of recruiting to Nebraska, Iowa, and Iowa State recruit. All right, dude, Wes, touche. That's a great point. Iowa and Iowa State recruit well and win. Tough sells. Good point. Very good point. You got me on that one. Jason Paniagua, buenos dias, amigo. ¿Cómo está? I'm working on the 16 show, which will be en español, en todo. Yo necesito muchas cervezas, por favor. And as always, ¿dónde está la biblioteca?
On Twitter at Chris Duel and at Shannon B. Sweeting.
Thank you, voice dude. Yeah, we don't throw out the personal Twitter accounts that much like he just did. So thank you for that. And you can reach Dave Ayler on Twitter at, oh, no, you can't, because he's not on Twitter. He hates Twitter. He's not about the Twitter.
I'm a Facebook exclusive.
Facebook exclusive.
Every one of my post things, you got to go check out Facebook.
What was I watching? There's on Hulu. It's really good. It's called 9 Perfect Strangers. Nicole Kidman is one of the lead stars on it. And there's a young lady who's like an Instagram. I don't know if she's an Instagram model, but she's an Instagram influencer in this. And the way she insulted another woman in the group was, oh, you seem like somebody who posts on Facebook. So apparently Facebook is for old people like me, Dave Ayler.
That sounds like someone from Instagram who thinks they're an influencer.
I would think
I don't
so.
get any of my influence from anybody on Facebook, Instagram, or anything. I'm able to think for myself.
So when are we going to get you on TikTok?
Oh, all that is just, people eating Tide Pods and the milk crate challenge.
It's very tempting of you.
Yes.
Tide Pods.
The milk crate challenge that's going on right now. It's a bunch of fools. Although I do like watching people fall down and hurt themselves.
See,
It's all entertainment. You just watch people be idiots. And
Yeah.
like, look at all this that I'm getting from you hurting yourself. Thank you for putting your body on the line.
See, on TikTok, I see Tom Brady. I see Neil deGrasse Tyson. I see historical. I for some reason,
I see all those people on Facebook, and I don't want to see them there either.
but no, you see for some reason.
You work for a media company.
Yes.
I heard
and-
media.
Yeah, and
This is the reason if you ever get let go, they'll be like, listen, you don't have any social media, and this is why we have to.
Like
I
exactly.
do have social media, and I work for a media company.
But no,
None of those are owned by iHeartMedia.
some social media savvy person's going to come in someday, and it's like, and if you and I and Shannon are not like all over all the latest social media, that's not. I wouldn't be surprised if that didn't become an issue for somebody. It's like, hey, wait a minute, I've looked at your social media, and you're not on TikTok. What's up with that?
Yeah, well, that's way above my pay grade. They need to start throwing a little more Benjamins at me. If they want me to influence,
You're getting
I'll take whatever there is. I'll take the George Washingtons.
I'm getting paid gift cards.
Yeah, I'd like some gift cards. Dave Ayler, before we move into the high five play of the day, I just want to point out, usually I give you a hard time for wearing a plain t-shirt with nothing on it. Today, I'm wearing a plain t-shirt with nothing on it. And you, sir, are wearing a very cool St. Louis Blues hockey t-shirt.
Oh, that's because I woke up kind of late, and this was the thing that looked the cleanest that I had to grab before I was running out the door to get here and put out fires. When
Same
I
thing
walked
here.
in the door.
I like to wear something sports related, or like if I would have found my Tank for Trevor shirt that I used to wear before the draft, that would have been a good one today. After Trevor Lawrence plays really well against the Cowboys, but yeah, I was running late. It's like, grab whatever you can grab. Where did you buy? Did you buy that T-shirt in St. Louis at a Blues game?
No, this was given to me by somebody.
Okay.
I think it was a Christmas present, or I don't know. My mom felt sorry for me or something, so she sent me a shirt.
Did your mom feel sorry for you because you're not on social media? Because you're not
No,
on Twitter
no.
and TikTok? And
No, she sees what I post on Facebook, and she goes, "Nah, I don't need to be friends with Dave on any of his social media."
so I guess you're not on Instagram. You're Facebook exclusive.
Yes,
Okay. You can.
I'm a Facebook influencer.
You are very funny on Facebook.
Oh, thank you.
You put out like at least one-liner a day, usually in the morning. That is very, very funny.
Well, thank you.
Just saying that. All right.
I'm glad I influenced you.
You do influence me. You've influenced me to wear plain old t-shirts. Our high five play of the day is appropriately sponsored by High Five, where you can do just about everything. You can watch sports, big screen TVs everywhere. You can have fun. You can go bowling. You can axe throwing, laser tag. You hungry? They got great food. You want some beverages? They got great beverages. They got drink and food specials, 2 locations, High Five in the Austin area. Someday I can dream maybe there'll be a High Five in San Antonio. Shannon might be able to make that happen because she knows people. Shannon, what is our High Five play of the day?
Football is taking over, Chris. And so when football
Yes.
comes into view, everything else kind of goes into the rear view. Except golf kind of snuck in there this weekend with the BMW Championship. Bryson DeChambeau leading the way throughout most of the tournament, but it ended up coming down to a playoff, a 6-hole playoff between Bryson DeChambeau and Patrick Cantlay, with Patrick Cantlay ultimately defeating Bryson DeChambeau. So we give our high five to him. He now moves atop the leaderboard as he makes his final race to win that FedEx Cup at the end of the season. But on top of this, I really got to give Patrick the high five because, listen, we all love to hate Bryson because he makes it so easy. The things he does, the things he says, the things he almost doesn't say. And during the playoff, Bryson's getting ready to take a shot. Patrick already has, so he's moving on towards his ball. And I guess Bryson got a glimpse of him in the corner of his eye. So Bryson stops what he's doing and says, Patrick, can you stop walking?
Wow.
All right. If anything, you've ruined it now for yourself even more because you've taken yourself out of that rhythm just by saying something to him. He did not lay up the shot as intended, Bryson, after maybe he should have let Patrick keep walking because he did not lay it up. Patrick ended up sinking it for a birdie and winning the whole thing. So congrats to Patrick. A high five to you. I've picked you a couple times this season during our picks. So it's nice that you finally did something on a time when I didn't even pick you. But congrats. And as I said, he's now at the top of the leaderboard for that FedEx Cup.
You know, I try to like Bryson DeChambeau, and I mainly because people don't like him. So it's like he's kind of like an outcast, and but yeah, when you do stuff like that, I just so yeah, I join you on the high five. I don't know, and I wonder if Bryson DeChambeau is. Yeah, because here we are talking about him again because of something he did that was unusual and kind of weird and a little bit rude. I wonder if he's crazy like a fox and is just behaving this way on purpose, just because it puts him out there and it extends his brand. And we talked about influencers and Bryson DeChambeau. Because of these weird things, this is why we talk about him. I don't know. Am I nuts? Is he just doing these things to make noise and get attention?
Well, the difference between winning that tournament and coming in second, which Bryson did, ended up being a total of $700,000. So I guess you'd have to ask Bryson how much that is worth in comparison to us now talking about him today. I personally would rather the money.
Oh, yeah.
Myself. He still walked away with over $1 million.
Oh, my God.
It's not hurting, but.
My God.
Yeah. 700,000 is nothing to.
Yeah, that's some extra nice walking around money. That's some extra good beer money. That's $700K. Excellent high five play of the day. Shannon, we opened the show talking about the Dallas Cowboys backup quarterback situation. Since we last convened, we now know who the starting quarterback will be for the Texas Longhorns on opening day, which is just a few days away against Louisiana in a very, very big one. Who's our starting quarterback on the 40 acres, and how do you feel about it?
Well, if you listen to the Chris Duel show each and every day from 6 to 9 or via the podcast, which I'm sure all of you do, you would have known ahead of time that it was going to be Hudson Card, and it is now official. Hudson Card is the starting. He is number 1 for Texas, trotting out this year against Louisiana on Saturday. Now, that does not mean that we will not see Casey Thompson, and we're being told that both guys will get some reps during this game. But it is Card as the QB1. Overall in camp, he just had a better camp, protected the ball a lot better than Casey Thompson. They did a walkthrough this weekend where they stayed at the hotel Friday night. And they kind of had a practice on Saturday at the stadium, and Card getting the reps with the ones. The quarterbacks were apparently notified Friday evening of what the deal was going to be. So now it'll be interesting to see, how much time Casey gets, if the number 1 quarterback in Hudson Card remains throughout the season, throughout the entire game 1 to see if he makes it to game 2. Because, we know Thompson's not shy at dipping his toe into the transfer portal. And I'd love to see him stick around. I'm not the biggest fan of using both guys regularly. I feel like only on a need to be basis, because we've kind of played that in the past and it didn't work out so well. But happy for the local kid. He's from Lake Travis. It's his time to shine. Big shoes to step into, and I'm sure there'll be a large crowd out there on Saturday, even though it's going to be hot. So hot, Chris. 3
Just drink, just A, hydrate,
Yes.
and then B, just have a couple extra beers. But drink water with your beer.
Yeah.
I have made the mistake, especially when I was younger,
Yeah.
tailgating on a hot day. Just give me more beer.
Who's the running back from Hard Knocks? I'm 1-1. It'd be
Oh,
1-1
gosh, who
with
was
your
that?
beverages.
Yeah,
At least one water between
Working some
every
waters.
adult beverage.
yes. Now, I want to ask you, do you think maybe, because I mean, that's part of the narrative. You've been talking about Casey Thompson, and that if he
Mhm.
doesn't get this starting gig, which Hudson Card did, that he's not shy with the transfer portal and he may want to just get the heck out of here. Do you think maybe part of Steve Sarkisian's thinking is, if I kind of work in both quarterbacks and at least early in the season give them both opportunities, then I'll have, we talked about the importance of having a really good backup quarterback in Dallas. Same thing applies to the Longhorns.
Mhm.
They're trying to make big noise, win the Big 12. And if everything went perfectly this season, who knows, maybe get to the college football playoff. I know that a lot of people think that's dreaming, but there's some good personnel and a great coach for the Longhorns. Do you think maybe part of the thinking of Sark is, let's keep the number 2 guy as happy as we can, and if I throw a couple series at him, that's a small price to pay?
I don't think so. I don't think we played the quote from Sark on Friday where he was asked if he was worried about a guy potentially going to the transfer portal because he's not named the starter. And he pretty much said no, because he has to make the decision based on what's best for this football program and this team and the future of this team and to get wins. So if that comes at the cost of a guy leaving, that's something he can't control and can't worry about in the back of his mind. He can't play to one guy's feelings when you've got to think about the entire team and program as a whole and trying to perform the best they can each and every Saturday and improving each and every Saturday. And maybe some of that improvement might come with playing a different guy against a different opponent. It's not really the way I see it. And, Casey Thompson, like I said, he's dipped his toe in that transfer portal before. Ultimately, he did come back. I don't know if he came back because he was convinced via the Texas staff to say, look, you're the guy of the future. Or if maybe he just wasn't, getting any bites when he was sitting in there, if no one was really coming his way. Because as we know, it's such a small percentage of guys that get picked up through the transfer portal, through a place that they're willing and wanting to go. And then once they get there, it doesn't always work out. It doesn't always end up with them becoming the starter or even the number 2 guy, right? They just end up somewhere else and getting an education somewhere else. So there's a lot of things to weigh if you're Casey Thompson right now.
Now, I will point out a guy it did work out for, the quarterback transfer portal. JT Daniels, now the starting quarterback at Georgia. And Georgia expected to make a lot of noise. He was the starting quarterback at USC. In fact, JT Daniels played against Texas in Austin. I was at that game a few years ago when the Longhorns beat USC. So he had an early I think a game 1 injury a couple of years ago. And Keaton Slovis, the freshman out of Arizona, came in and was just a phenom and took that job away from JT Daniels. So he goes into the transfer portal, goes to Georgia. Now I think he's a senior now, JT Daniels, and now Georgia, in the top 10. And some people always believe that they're right just on the outside, knocking on that door in the SEC of the college football playoff. So, you got in on some, although they're not favorites, but they're both being mentioned. Both of those quarterbacks, JT Daniels of Georgia and Keaton Slovis of USC, are like in the top 10 mentions of possible Heisman Trophy candidates. So it's rare. Right? Most of the time it does not lead to a better situation for a young quarterback. But I'm sure a lot of them look at the JT Daniels situation and think that could be me. I can find greener pastures if it's not working out for me here.
Yeah. Or even, a grad transfer thing. I mean, we saw Shane Buechele do it when it was, he kind of had his year and then it became him and Sam switching out. And then finally Sam was the guy. Shane took like over 20 hours in one semester so he could grad transfer and get that extra eligibility at SMU. And he did great. And now he's in KC and performed really well during preseason. And I think he made a good case to have a roster spot on an NFL squad. So it doesn't mean it's not going to work out if you do hit that transfer portal. But I think, again, you have to weigh the options and the education you're getting along with being at Texas and all the opportunities that could bring you, because as we know, it's even smaller percentage of guys who go to the NFL. I mean, there's just a lot to weigh. And I know Casey Thompson, like, he's probably feels like it's this all over again. I believe his dad was a big time guy at OU, right? I mean, I think he feels like he's got a lot to live up to and he's not getting the opportunity to. So we'll see how much playing time he gets this weekend and if he does something with it.
Another name that it worked out for was Gardner Minshew. Don't forget he was a backup quarterback, a graduate transfer, had all of his hours at Alabama, wound up going to Washington State when the Pirate Mike Leach was there. And if he doesn't make that move, he doesn't show what he has, and he would not be in the NFL right now. We wouldn't even know the name Gardner Minshew.
Nick Foles.
Yeah, as we do. So lots more to talk about, lots going on in the world of sports. We will get into it. Everything college football, NFL, Major League Baseball, including the Astros as we inch towards September and things really heat up in Major League Baseball. Coming up in the 7 o'clock hour, Shannon's Salty Shakedown, always entertaining, enlightening, and extra salty. This day in sports history, sports birthdays, and don't forget, in the 8 o'clock hour, we're going to give away Coheed and Cambria tickets. They are coming to Austin, and just after 8:30, UTSA head football coach Jeff Traylor going to join us. Always a very, very fun and compelling interview with him. Don't go anywhere. Lots coming up between now and 9 on the Chris Duel Show. Thank you, Clint Proctor, John Paul Albert. Ralph, I'll click on that link. It's Manu. Yep. Yeah, he's my dream guest en Espanol, Ralph, when we do the entire show en Espanol. And of course, we'll have some high-tech English subtitles on Facebook and YouTube and Twitch. For those of you not nearly as fluent in Espanol as I am, and Shannon and Dave and Manu. So, it's not like we don't have feelings if you can't hang with our prolific Spanish prowess. So, Jared, are they I just saw what you wrote, Jared. Jared, I haven't shot an Ansira commercial in over 2 years. But what they do sometimes is they bring them back, which, God love them, and that's their right to do. But when I first started doing those commercials, and my gosh, that was like 20 years ago. They would pay me per month to be on a retainer so that I wouldn't do commercials for anybody else. And then they finally, years later, they changed. They go, oh, no, we'll pay you per commercial. So instead of paying me every month, we would shoot like 4 commercials a year. Although I haven't shot one in 2 years. So it's like, oh, we'll pay you per commercial. And we reserve the right to replay them, which is fine. But yeah, I know we did not shoot one in 2020. So the last time I shot one was maybe in 2019. And here we are in 2020. I'll have to see it. But I am a big fan of the family, Ernesto and Robin Ansira, April Ansira, Ashley. They're really good people, and they're good company. They're a very, very good car dealership. I've been driving an Ansira vehicle for over 20 years. I'm driving an Ansira Kia right now, but I've driven an Ansira Volkswagen for a long time. All right. Dave Emilio, will the show do any meet and greets for any of the UT games? We would love to. At this point, that is not scheduled. And, with everything's a little different when it comes to COVID and post-COVID. Well, and speaking of which, this is off topic, but it's a similar because I'm still very concerned about the Delta variant. In that it is more contagious and more deadly than the original COVID strain that hit the U.S. Today is my deadline. I checked my emails. In 2019, I bought tickets to see James Taylor and Jackson Brown at the Toyota Center in Houston. It was going to be May 17th, 2020. Well, that was in 2020. Postponed. So now it is scheduled for October 17th, 2021. And my deadline is August 30th, today, to decline those tickets and get a full refund, or stick with them and assume that now if the concert is postponed, I'll either get my money or I'll have the tickets whenever they do the concert. But and I was talking about it with my wife over the weekend, to go into the Toyota Center indoors full of people on October 17th. I don't know if I'm loving the idea yet. I'm a big James Taylor and Jackson Brown fan. And I got lucky. I got really good seats. I went to jamestaylor.com. I think I'm 6 rows away from the stage. They're really good seats. So I got a dilemma by I'm going to go take a nap this morning. And when I wake up from my nap, I've got to decide, do I pull the plug on the James Taylor Jackson Brown tickets? I don't want to. They're 2 tickets for $290. But they're really good seats.
This is the Chris Duel Show.
They're really good seats.
Try to run, try to hide. Hang on to the other side. The other side.
Now, Chris Duel.
Glory, glory, hallelujah, and praise be to Thomas Wade Landry and all of the football gods on high who look down upon us and shower football blessings, high school, college, and pro. Football is upon us. Lots of high school football. By the way, Shannon Salty Sweeney and it is the Chris Duel Show with Shannon Salty Sweeney. Your high school won its opening game in the Taco Shack Bowl. My high school, I don't have it in front of me, but it was a blowout. Holmes High School, Oliver Wendell Holmes High School in San Antonio defeated Lee High School, which used to be known as Robert E. Lee High School, but then they said, that's a Confederate general. We need to change that. So now it's Lee. Now it stands for something. So it's not officially Robert E. Lee High School. But my beloved Holmes Huskies, I can't say this often, but I will say it now, and I will be accurate. The undefeated Holmes Huskies with a blowout win over Robert E. Lee over the weekend. If I'll figure out what it was, something like 40-17. It was some kind of a big blowout.
Pretty ugly. Yeah, I don't want to be a Debbie Downer, but Anderson lost that opener in the Taco Shack Bowl.
Oh, I thought you guys
remember
won.
they lost on a
right.
last minute game winning drive by the McCallum Knights.
That's right. Your team scored early. Now I remember. You guys were up early. When you went to bed, your team was up.
Yeah. I felt like a winner going to bed. 42-10.
Holmes beat Lee Saturday night at Comalander Stadium. The Huskies amassed 345 yards rushing, 6.5 yards per carry for the mighty Holmes Husky and head coach Juan Morales. I've had Juan Morales on the show a couple of years ago, Shannon, when the team was really bad. And I offered to come on in and do a pregame pep talk for the Holmes Huskies, and Juan Morales declined. I think, Shannon, I think you need to go back to your high school and give them a pregame pep talk, and I need to go back to home. They don't need it yet, but if things go a little south this season, head coach Juan Morales, if you're out there, I once again, sir, offer my services for a pregame pep talk.
How do you feel about high schools running up the score and running up the stats like that? Because I know it's a pretty contested issue. Some people are like, who cares? A lot of these kids are trying to make good tape. They're trying to get onto that next level. They're not going to not play the game. And then other people think, how could you do that? It's unsportsmanlike. These kids are just out here to have fun. Because I kind of had that question when we talked about Phillip Rivers, when we gave him the high five on Friday for winning his first ever game as a head coach. I believe the score was 49-0 that he and his team racked up in game one. And, he may have this almost villain-like complex if he keeps doing that because, the guy from the NFL is just letting his kids do whatever they want and running up the score. And I don't know that I care. I mean, get better if you're score some points if you don't like the score differential.
My feeling, and you know what, it would be a great question for Jeff Traylor, because before his college career, and among other things, he was an assistant at Texas for the Texas Longhorns. Now he's the UTSA head football coach, but I believe it was at Gilmer. He was a long-time high school football coach in Texas and has been part of the Texas High School Coaches Association for many, many, many years. It'd be a great question for him. I would say if you've won the game and you're up by multiple touchdowns, I mean, just in life, do you want to run up the score on another human being if you've defeated them? Do you want to put something in someone's face if you're doing better than they are? I guess I'm a little different, and I guess maybe I wouldn't have that killer instinct as a high school football coach. If I'm up 28 and we're going into the fourth quarter, I'm putting in my 2s and 3s and getting them some playing time, and I just think that's a better way to go. But certainly a case can be made for. We're here, Jimmy Johnson, when he was coach of the Cowboys, it's like, we're not letting up every single day. And I saw a document, I think Jimmy Johnson of Football Life. And even at Miami, people were angry that the Miami Hurricanes would run up the score on people. And he said, we're here to play football. We're here to be excellent on every down, and we're not letting up. So that's the other side of that case that you would make, Shannon.
Yeah, I agree with your sentiment in that you don't want to beat someone down, but in a game like atmosphere where you are there to play the game and score points, and that is the name of the game, quite literally, that but I'm there for garbage time. I like putting in those other guys, to give them a chance and to see what they can do and to let them prove themselves. And I think we need more of it in college football and even the NFL because we know how far the drop-off is.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not going to be upset if a team runs up a score 49-0 week in and week out.
Yeah. Speaking
Sorry.
of garbage time, I even thought that term, that phrase, garbage time, watching Cowboys Jaguars in that second half. I mean, I was excited to watch Trevor Lawrence, and that was fun. Trevor Lawrence, 11 of 12, 139 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, a quarterback rating of 154.5, and 158 point something is perfect. So, that's one of the best quarterback ratings you can get. And I tweeted that out, Shannon, and somebody goes, yeah, it was against the Cowboys 2s and 3s. But yeah, okay. But, baby steps.
You do it against the 2s and 3s.
Yeah, exactly.
Bro.
And I don't see a lot of other quarterbacks in the NFL against 2s and 3s this season or any other season putting up those numbers with that kind of a passer rating. And he's a rookie. And you look at everybody's rookie season. Troy Aikman's rookie season, Peyton Manning's rookie season, Andrew Luck's rookie season. It is hard, unless you're named Dak Prescott, it is hard to be good and effective in the NFL as a rookie. And I must admit, Shannon, and ever since I had the t-shirt, Tank for Trevor, I'm kind of pulling for the guy. I want him to do well in this league. I think it would be good for the league.
Yeah.
I think it would be good for, Jacksonville, they had a couple of moments when they were really good, but not when you think of really great football teams in the NFL, you don't think Jacksonville Jaguars. So for balance of power in the NFL, to see Jacksonville ascend, I think that would be cool. I would enjoy seeing that.
It's hard to root for Urban Meyer and kind of have that ego inflated anymore by seeing him be successful in the NFL. But after it was interesting because he was number 1 out of high school. He did what he did at Clemson, winning a national championship his freshman year and being the number 1 guy in the NFL draft. And he's the next Peyton, he's the next Tom Brady, he's the next whatever. And then they start their preseason. They're like, oh, but everybody remember how many interceptions Peyton threw his first year, and everybody remember how poorly Aaron Rodgers did his. Like now those asterisks are coming out. Like, oh, he gets a buffer,
Well, and even Jimmy Johnson,
right.
1-15, so his
it's
first
just
year.
Interesting how that narrative has switched so quickly due to some preseason games. It'll be interesting to see just how good that team performs when they are playing ones, and specifically in that division, which I think could be pretty winnable. I mean, you look at the Colts right now, I think they were at first looked to be the strongest, if not the Titans, and Wentz is still questionable. Sam Ehlinger goes down on Friday with a knee injury. He's out for, I think, 5 weeks at least. So now he's not going to get that nod to start if Carson isn't ready. And they also lose T.Y. Hilton for a number of weeks, who is, hit or miss. But when he's hitting, I mean, he is a valid option out on the wide outside. And, so they could get in the mix for this division for sure, because we all know what Houston's doing, which is
Yeah, and you mentioned, for Tennessee, Ryan Tannehill is out with COVID for a while.
Having a real issue down there, or up there, I guess, from where we are in Tennessee.
So yeah, it's going to be interesting. But I did hear, and again, I'm just want football, and I'm a glutton for punishment. Plus, in a game like Jaguars Cowboys in the second half, when there's really not much going on, and it's threes playing threes, pretty much. I keep it on just so I can hear Cowboys talk among the announcers, and Michael Irvin was in the booth, which was always interesting and entertaining. But even Michael said he went and he spoke with the Jaguars.
Yes.
And he said he brought up the Jimmy Johnson, Troy Aikman legacy. He said, I had he was telling the Jacksonville Jaguars, I had a front row seat when Jimmy Johnson became head coach of the Cowboys. Because remember, Irvin was drafted by Tom Landry, and Michael Irvin was there for the final year of Tom Landry before Jerry Jones bought the team and then fired Landry and brought in Jimmy Johnson. But what he was telling the Jags was, you now have a great coach who was a great college coach, and you've got maybe the best quarterback to come out of college in many years in Trevor Lawrence. And I saw that happen on my team with the Dallas Cowboys with Jimmy Johnson and Troy Aikman. So, I mean, that comparison certainly is there, and it's even being made by the playmaker Michael Irvin, which I think is kind of interesting.
That whole broadcast was a little odd, but on Michael Irvin and his time with Jaguars, then they asked him about the reports that we discussed on Friday of players being upset about kind of the college ways with Urban Meyer, being yelled at through a bullhorn, being really upset and kind of being punished for it after losing or keeping score during practice. And Michael Irvin said, you can't, if you're coming to me complaining that you're upset that your coach cares too much about winning and losing, I don't want to hear it.
That was a great point.
Do you understand how ridiculous you sound?
Yeah.
You play this game to win. You should be upset when you lose. That was a great point.
That
And
was my favorite
from
moment.
A player, I think something that those Jaguars players need to hear.
Yeah, and Michael Irvin added in that moment what that you're referring to, when he said there's a lot of things you can criticize Urban Meyer for, but
Yes.
don't get on him for wanting to win and win all the time. What he said there as well was, some of these guys are giving 75% instead of 100%. And he said, and that's part of the weeding out process. He said, that's what happened when Jimmy Johnson got to Dallas. If you're given 75% effort, you're gone. And he said, I wish, that, and hopefully that gets back to the Jaguar players. Obviously that was the local Dallas telecast of that football game.
Yes.
And the
That's very
Jaguars
obvious.
had their own Jacksonville crew, doing their own broadcast. But those are words of wisdom for any Jaguar and for any NFL player from Michael Irvin. If you're complaining about your coach, especially the new head coach, and you're not out there busting your butt, giving 110% every play, then you are expendable and you will be weeded out of that team and of this league.
Yeah, it's the old adage, you practice how you play. And if you're only giving 75% in practice, how are you convincing the coach otherwise that you're going to give more than that when it comes to game time? So
Totally agree.
I think it's fair.
Yeah, totally agree. So let's see. Also in football, of course, part of that Cowboys Jaguars game, we saw a lot of Dak Prescott on the sidelines. And Shannon, from what we're hearing from the Cowboys and what we're hearing from Jerry Jones, Dak is going to be good to go in week 1. I don't know that I remember any previous time that, a Cowboy quarterback didn't play a down of preseason, was as good as Dak Prescott. So therefore I'm talking about Roger Staubach, Troy Aikman, and Tony Romo, and Don Meredith. I'll go way back. And on your opening day, without any preseason whatsoever, coming off an injury, you are going against the defending Super Bowl champions. That is going to be there can be no more ultimate test than that one for Dak Prescott and the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, I would imagine that they're going to open this game with a lot of running, a lot of Zeke, a lot of dink and dunks to get him loose, get that arm back in its swing of things, especially considering the shoulder injury, and just get him that feeling of being back under center in front of a crowd, especially knowing the Tampa Bay defense being as good as it is. Don't give them that opportunity early to come take you down from behind. But we'll see. That is a little nerve-wracking for me, but they seem to be fine with it. So I guess I got to roll with it. And, you mentioned him being on the sideline. We did see a lot of them. They kept throwing the camera at him. He was very involved in the game. A lot of coaching up from the sideline. He had his little earpiece in. He looked like a Secret Service guy. So it's good. It's fine. He's very much involved.
Another thing that, playing. Yeah. And late in that game, another thing that Michael Irvin and the guys in the booth, Babe Laufenberg, and I'm forgetting the play-by-play guy's name, but it was Laufenberg, Michael Irvin, and the play-by-play guy. But they brought up the Tampa Bay game, and Michael Irvin again said, I know the Cowboys are not favored in that game. He said, but think for a second. He goes, they are capable of winning that game. He said they're underdogs, but it's no foregone conclusion that Tampa Bay will beat Dallas on opening Thursday night, a week from Thursday night. And Michael Irvin said, think for him, if Dallas wins that game, then everything, this entire season and every expectation in one night will be flipped, because this defense that was so god-awful a year ago, and here's so many people, myself included, questioning Mike McCarthy as his worthiness to be the head coach of this football team. If they go out and here we are talking about Dak Prescott, how can he possibly go out there and be effective against the best defense in the league and the Super Bowl champions who are bringing all 22 starters back? But A, on any given Sunday, which also means on any given Thursday, and B, this Cowboys team has a ton of talent on offense, and I think we can all agree they do look better on defense, which I guess you and I and Dave Ayler could probably improve last year's defense. But if they find a way to win, my God, we would go to bed Thursday night and we would do this show Friday morning, a week from Friday, just with the entire world in the NFL and in the world of the Dallas Cowboys flipped and changed, and expectations overnight would go through the roof.
Yeah, they would certainly be flipped. And now I'm also thinking of, they are the champions, right? The Bucks. And so they're going to have that banner ceremony. And again, you talk about Dak Prescott. What does that do to, that delays the start, right? That changes how much time they have in between being on the field for warmups and taking the field for the game itself. What does that do mentally? Are they able to stay loose? And Irving's right. They have the capability to do it, but it's a question of whether all the pieces are there, and that's something we just haven't seen from the Cowboys in a very long time. And then, you mentioned McCarthy. I think right now he's just kind of viewed as a body who happens to be the head coach. He has yet to really do anything. And I mean, it was interesting to see how many people wanted him to be gone during COVID year last year, because everybody else was getting the COVID excuse, right? And for whatever reason, COVID and Dak being out wasn't enough to convince some people that McCarthy should stick around another year. So, I'm with you. It's going to change. I know we have to make our predictions for the NFL season before this game, which that's going to be hard, because I think a lot of people will be flipped one way or the other based off of game one for the Cowboys this year.
Very true. And again, I look at Mike McCarthy and I think of great Cowboys coaches. And of course, that's Tom Landry, Jimmy Johnson, and I will also add Bill Parcells, because we know he was great with other teams and won a couple of Super Bowls with the Giants. And he really did turn that Cowboys team around. And if Romo doesn't fumble that snap in Seattle in his very first playoff game, and then in that offseason, Bill Parcells and Jerry, you talk about Jimmy and Jerry not getting along. Apparently, Bill, didn't love having T.O. on the team, and Jerry wanted him. And I often wonder if the Cowboys beat Seattle in that very first Romo playoff game, that they should have won if Romo doesn't fumble that snap. Then they go on, and whether they win or not in the next round, and we'd have to go look up who their next opponent would have been. Maybe they win the next one, maybe they don't. But if they would have won one, is that enough for Bill Parcells and Jerry to want to go another year? And who knows? The entire scenario of Tony Romo making big mistakes in clutch moments might have been completely different, because that was the first one of many for Tony Romo. So I think about great Cowboys coaches, and for me, they're Landry, Johnson, and Parcells. Mm-hmm. I look at Mike McCarthy, and I get the Dave Campo feeling. I get the Chan Gailey feeling. I look at him, I go, you know what? Football, you've been in the game a long time, but you are not, you don't have fire. You don't have sizzle. I don't think he has respect from the players, and I don't think he has gravitas. And I think Dan Quinn might as defensive coordinator. It's interesting when the Cowboys once got blown out in Green Bay and Wade Phillips was the head coach, and he fired Wade Phillips and he promoted Jason Garrett, who was offensive coordinator and assistant head coach. I just wonder if the best coach on that staff isn't Dan Quinn. Mm-hmm. And I guess, this season will tell the tale. I certainly have a feeling that Mike McCarthy is on a hot seat this season for the Cowboys.
Yeah, when you think of great coaches, you most often think of them tied to a quarterback. And I think Mike McCarthy, the idea with him was, well, look what he did with Aaron Rodgers. Let's have him do that with Dak.
Yeah.
Well, he didn't get Dak last year, so this is the year. And if you can't get this $90 million man to succeed with this team, then you're not going to succeed here. You're going to be gone.
Yeah. And it's interesting. And again, tied to a quarterback, again, I go back to Parcells and what could have been. You had Landry, Staubach, Jimmy Johnson, Troy Aikman. And for a moment, and it was Parcells, along with Sean Payton and Jerry Jones, who discovered him, you had Parcells, Tony Romo. And I have heard from so many people that once Parcells left, that went from a team with discipline to Club Med. It went to a country club atmosphere. And all of a sudden, Romo was the man. Woo, Tony Romo. And Parcells famously said, do not anoint him too early. Don't start throwing roses at his feet yet. He doesn't deserve them yet. And as soon as Parcells left, it was, we got Tony Romo. This guy's great. Have you seen his stats? My God, he's great. And great stats, but not a whole lot of playoff victories for the Dallas Cowboys. All right, coming up, fasten your seatbelts, chant your mantra, take a deep breath because the salty shakedown is moments away. We'll also get you caught up on this day in sports history, sports birthdays, and more. And you do not want to miss UTSA head football coach Jeff Traylor, going to join us just after 8:30. Birds up, coach. He is one of the greatest interviews you'll ever do with a head coach. He is the quintessential college football head coach, and big expectations for his UTSA Roadrunners that are going to open up Saturday against undefeated 1-0 Illinois in Champaign-Urbana. Lots coming up. She's Shannon Salty Sweeney, Dave Ayler, your soundscape stylist. I'm Chris. Thanks for hanging out with us on the Chris Duel Show. Thank you, Chris Gonzalez. Would have been Cowboys Bears. Yeah, and what if the Cowboys catch fire and beat the Bears and then go to the NFC Championship game? I don't know, man. I think Parcells would have stuck around. I think Jerry Jones would have wanted to keep him around. I appreciate that, though, Chris Gonzalez. You get an honorary. I'll try to bring that up on the radio in the next segment. You get an honorary producer's credit for coming up with the research for us. I appreciate that. Let's see. I need some information here. Bernard Trefin, thank you for the clarification that Lee is now Legacy of Educational Excellence. And you make an interesting point. There is a hotel in downtown San Antonio, the Robert E. Lee Hotel. Been there for decades, maybe even 100 years. Bernard says, why hasn't there been a push to rename that? It's a good question. I don't know. Good morning, Foam Foot 420. Jared Taylor says, wait till Holmes plays Jay. Yeah, it could go bad. Jared, I'm going to revel in the glory of the undefeated Holmes Huskies as long as I can. Jason Paniagua says, and now that you say this, I remember, but I did not remember it off the top of my head. The Robert E. Lee Hotel downtown was the first hotel in San Antonio that had air conditioning. So there's that.
Is Jeff Traylor usually pretty good about being on time? Or
He used to be. And the reason I put once or twice, why I put Andy there, Andy has like a direct line to, whatever athletic department handler he has. If for some reason he's not there when the segment starts, just call Andy and say you have any ideas on how we can get Jeff. But he's all but once or maybe twice last season he was there on time. All right, we get some love from UTSA football just now. And they tagged you, Shannon. Very good.
To the Chris Duel Show with Shannon Salty Sweeting.
Thank you, voice dude. Little thunder in the background as that Hurricane Ida, which is now a tropical storm, pushes its way up through Louisiana, making a northeastern track. Our thoughts, our prayers, our love to everyone in Louisiana and in the path of Hurricane Ida. It is the Chris Duel Show with Shannon Salty Sweeney, and UTSA football just tweeted out that Jeff Traylor, their head coach, going to be on this show this morning at 8:35. There you go. I was about to say, see, if you were on Twitter, but you're very intuitive, Dave Ayler, you Twitter hater, they did a hashtag birds up with a birds up emoji. Did UTSA football on Twitter. So that's pretty cool. But you knew that intuitively. However, you might know that even more definitively if you were on Twitter, Mr. Facebook exclusive Dave Ayler. Coming up, Shannon's Salty Shakedown. Before that, sports birthdays, and we'll start it off with this day in sports history. Monday, August 30th, 2021. Let's go back in time to August 30th, 1905. Detroit Tigers future Baseball Hall of Fame center fielder Ty Cobb made his Major League Baseball debut, doubling off of Jack Chesbro in a 5-3 win over the New York Highlanders at Bennett Park, Detroit. The New York Highlanders. I need to get me a New York Highlanders jersey. Nobody has those. That's why I want it. It's unique. This day in 1981, jockey Billy Shoemaker becomes the first jockey to win $1 million. He did that in a thoroughbred horse race when John Henry takes the inaugural Arlington Million by a nose over the Bart. I wonder if the Bart was named after Bart Simpson. Possibly, but probably not. And finally, on this day in 1997, where were you when the WNBA played its first championship game? And it was just a game. It wasn't a series. It wasn't a 2 out of 3. It was just one game for the WNBA championship, the first ever in league history. The Houston Comets beat the New York Liberty 65-61. Cynthia Cooper of USC is your most valuable player with 25 points. She scored 14 in the second half as the Houston Comets are the first ever champions of the WNBA. That's sports history. How about some sports and celebrity birthdays? Born on this day in 1918, Ted Williams, baseball player, last player in the major league to bat over 400 for a single season. He was the Red Sox American League MVP in 1946 and 1949, Triple Crown winner in 42 and 47. Ted Williams, born in San Diego, California, on this day in 1918. He passed away in 2002. Born on this day in 1953, Robert Parrish, Basketball Hall of Fame center with the Boston Celtics, 9-time NBA All-Star. Robert Parrish was born in Shreveport, Louisiana. And born on this day in 1982, American tennis player, winner of the U.S. Open in 2003, Andy Roddick. Andy Roddick was born in Austin, Texas. Happy birthday, Andy Roddick. I got 3 celebrity birthdays for you. Actress Cameron Diaz is 49 today. Billionaire Warren Buffett is 91 today. And comedian Lewis Black, who I opened for a number of times in the comedy world, including at the Tulsa Comedy Club, where we took a tour of Oral Roberts University and were kicked out because of Lewis Black's commentary, which was hilarious. Lewis Black is 73 years old today. I can't believe Lewis Black is 73. That's your sports and celebrity birthdays this day in sports history. And now, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, friends, Romans, countrymen, and farm animals everywhere, here it is, your Monday edition of Shannon's Salty Shakedown.
The preseason is officially over. We look forward now to the NFL regular season. And if you're a Patriots fan, you are still wondering who your starting quarterback will be, because according to Bill Belichick, there are still many things they have to figure out, with the quarterbacks being one of them. Well, going into the weekend, former Patriots quarterback and now Pat's radio broadcaster, QB Scott Zolak, made a comment in an interview saying something along the lines of rap music is a distraction for Cam Newton. Many people, it was a little bit of a shock to the Patriot way in seeing Cam Newton first wearing that New England Patriot jersey and not Tom Brady, and him wearing the headphones and dancing and warm-up lines, and really just being the Cam Newton that a lot of people know and love, and just having that fun personality that keeps him energized and ready to go. Mr. Scott Zolak, that is blaming that music, I guess, on some of Cam's downfalls. Maybe, I don't know. I know Cam's been sitting out because of some COVID issues that he's had as far as contact tracing. Over the weekend, he got so much backlash from this that he has since apologized for the comment. Not sure if he believes it or if that's tied to anything with his job being part of that radio broadcast crew for the Patriots. But Chris, I know you're not super into the rap music. I like the beats. I like the good beats. You hear them a lot throughout warm-ups at a lot of stadiums. So the crazy part to me is that he thinks apparently Cam Newton's the only guy listening to rap music who plays football. And I don't know if he's had earplugs in during pregame warm-ups at any stadium where they play, typically top 40 hits with some pretty upbeat beats in the background going on. And a lot of players are often seen, lip syncing the words or even doing little dances. So I don't really know where he gets this comment from, other than I guess he has something against Cam Newton himself. Your thoughts on the comment, and if you had one song to choose from, almost like a walk-up song in basket or in baseball, if you were your key warm-up song, if you're the starting quarterback for your favorite NFL team, the Dallas Cowboys, what would you have the stadium guys play?
I might play the song we play on this show, which is "Break On Through to the Other Side" by the Doors. I might play. I used to.
There's some hidden meaning to it, right?
Yeah. When I did news talk, we played "Revolution" by the Beatles. I don't want to play the race card here with Scott Zolak, but older white dude, Scott Zolak, African-American quarterback Cam Newton listening to rap music, which the artists are predominantly African-American. And I hope and I pray to God there was no weird racial subtext or motivation to this. I will assume there wasn't. But when I hear that, my first thought is, if there was a white quarterback listening to country music on his headphones, Scott Zolak, would you have an issue with that? I don't know. I find it unusual. And again, how many players, Shannon, do we see with their headphones before a game, listen to music, trying to get themselves jacked up? I find it very, very peculiar. And Scott Zolak is right to apologize.
It's such a strange comment. Post Malone, obviously a huge Cowboys fan. He was featured in one of the hype videos this year, has a song called "Wow," and in it he references Dak Prescott. He says, "Hail Mary, Prescott, touchdown." So if that comment was somehow made towards Dak Prescott, and Dak Prescott, after that song came out, had a giant head and wasn't performing on the field, then maybe I could see it that way. But this is not the instance with Cam. It was just very weird. I understand the Patriots, you're going through something different right now. Tom Brady isn't there. It looks very different overall because you are now without Tom Brady. The Patriot way you used to know is no longer there. You've got Cam Newton. He's got energy. He's got attitude. He wears awesome hats during post-game pressers. I'm excited for that this season. I love to play What Is Cam Wearing as we get to NFL Sundays. But the rap music is not an issue in my opinion. All right, moving on, sir. One of the games you and I picked over the weekend was Hawaii UCLA. You and I both thought Hawaii could cover. We didn't have faith in Chip Kelly or that UCLA program as they have suffered in years past, but they showed up to the Rose Bowl and showed out with a 44-10 victory over Hawaii. But a lot of people weren't there to see it. In fact, there were only 32,982 fans in attendance, the second lowest attendance at a UCLA game since they've called the Rose Bowl their home. A stadium that holds roughly 80,000 people, Chris. They next play LSU this weekend. And it'd be kind of embarrassing, right? Because that's a nighttime game, prime time. It already looked embarrassing, right, to see that empty of a stadium because a lot of people were watching anyway because there really weren't any other games on to watch at the time. It's week 0 of college football. So what they're doing, Chris, if you're a student or a high school student, you can get free tickets to this game. And then up to 8 additional tickets for only $30.
Well, wait. The Hawaii game or the LSU game?
The upcoming UCLA LSU game.
Oh, my God.
If you're a young alumni, you can buy
crazy.
tickets for $30. They
Wow.
are almost pretty much giving away tickets right now for people to show up in Pasadena for this game against LSU. They're also worried because LSU fans travel well, obviously barring the hurricane right now. If they can
Mhm.
get out, they are expecting 20,000 LSU fans,
My God.
which is almost half of the attendance that you had of your own fans during the last game. In 2019, Chris, before COVID, UCLA averaged just over 40,000 fans a game, the lowest average for fans since they've called the Rose Bowl home since 1982. They are looking to make waves. I don't know how legit this team is after that win over Hawaii. Hawaii is not known as like a predominant program, but LSU will surely be a great test because I know they're not the LSU of the championship year, but they still are LSU. They're a huge program. They're, a huge name, whether they're good or not. That's a team you show up to see. So we'll have to see. Or is it blue or is it purple this Saturday when UCLA takes on LSU? And for those in the area, again, tickets going for about $30 or even free if you are the right age. That is a student. I don't know what's going on out there, Chris. I mean, do you kind of take a little bit of joy in this because it is UCLA? They are a rival school of yours, and they're having to give away tickets and beg fans to come out and somehow enjoy these games. I mean, it's the Rose Bowl. Why wouldn't you want to just go at least once to experience the Rose Bowl?
You would think, see, and my first thought, Shannon, and yes, as a USC alum, I wish nothing but ill will toward the UCLA football program. But, when you said 32,982, I thought, well, California, COVID, people are gun shy to go out in public. But as you pointed out, before COVID, they were averaging 40,000.
Yep.
So, yeah, there's a problem there. Now, that UCLA program has sucked, and winning cures many ills. So now they get the win against Hawaii. It'll be interesting to see the numbers versus LSU on Saturday. Now, it'll also be interesting if you think maybe COVID played a part in it. USC opens at the Coliseum against San Jose State on Saturday. It'll be interesting to see their numbers in the Coliseum. Are they down? And if they're down, is that COVID related? We can then speculate.
But we aren't seeing headlines of them giving away tickets.
No,
So
I can't believe you have to give away tickets to an LSU game. That's crazy.
Students.
Wow.
Please support. You didn't come here for an education. You came here to be football fans.
Exactly.
Get to Pasadena. All right, finally, and keeping it with football because it is our favorite time of year. We've had Peyton's Places, and now this year we are getting Eli's Places. It debuts on ESPN Plus this week, September 1st. And Chris, unlike Peyton's Places, which is it started off as for the 100th anniversary of the NFL. It was a history of the NFL. They've continued to do it. It's a lot of fun. Episodes are anywhere from 15 to 25 minutes. He usually has some stars tag along, and they go through small aspects of the game that, your casual football fans may not notice. It's a learning experience. It's a lot of fun. Peyton has a great personality. So now we have Eli, who has shown more personality since he's been off the Giants, right? He's not the, guy that remains neutral all the time, right? He's taken some jabs here and there at Tom Brady just for fun because he did beat him in a couple of Super Bowls. He's now got Eli's Places, which is a more of a college influenced show rather than his brother's, which is NFL. And so he's going back to his roots. He's going back to the SEC, and this whole season is quote unquote about back to school. So he shows up to Ole Miss, of course, where he went. He goes to a lake with one Nick Saban, who's driving a boat with Eli on a tube on the back. Eli asks him to take it easy, and Nick Saban is throwing him around the water, trying to throw him off the tube. He meets Ed Orgeron, who makes fun of him for being a Louisiana guy who did not go to LSU. So I don't know how I feel about the whole it being pretty much dominated by the SEC, but I am interested to see how Eli does as a host of a show which will rely heavily on his personality and his ability to be quick with his wit, which we haven't seen so much of in the past. Are you going to give it a shot, sir?
Oh, I'll give it a shot, but I'll compare this to, think of Peyton Manning's personality,
right,
which is through the roof, to Eli Manning's personality, which is, we haven't seen much of it. It's almost like when Jason Witten went into the broadcast booth a year after Tony Romo was so spectacular as a color analyst. And then Jason Witten, everybody, another Cowboy. Yeah, this will be easy. No, it's not as easy as it looks, Jason Witten. I got a feeling because his brother is so darn good at this, that the bar will noticeably drop significantly for Eli Manning. I wish him the best of luck, but I got a feeling it's going to be a little painful to watch.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they get a season 2 with maybe they think he'll be more comfortable. But at the same time, they're also starting him off in something that he knows very well, right? Staying in the SEC and going around all of those schools. So it'll be interesting to see. I will give it a try. Like I said, they're pretty short episodes. Peyton is also very heavily involved in it. So I don't think he would put something out there that he thinks would embarrass his brother. But I don't know that it'll live up to the standard that we now know and love as Peyton's Places. There you have it. Today's Salty Shakedown.
Wow, what a salty shakedown that was. A very compelling story about Scott Zolak criticizing Cam Newton for rap music and, of course, UCLA. And man, that UCLA beat down on Hawaii. And I did kind of watch that. And I was struck by those long shots of that Rose Bowl crowd. And certainly everybody, any Longhorn fan must, even though it's in Pasadena, California, see the Rose Bowl as kind of a hallowed cathedral of football. And it is anyway, but the fact that Texas won that national championship there, led by Vince Young against USC, tearing my heart out forever. It's got to hold a special place in their hearts as well. But yeah, I mean, that crowd looked so sparse in the Rose Bowl. Going to be fascinating to see what happens with it when LSU comes to town.
I mean, you mentioned COVID. That was my first thought of, is it not a lot of people because of COVID restrictions, but then all the people that are there were clumped together, and then to find, the story that they're having a hard time putting butts in the seats is shocking when you think of, I think, UCLA and that program. I mean, get Chosen Rosen he's got some friends there. He should be able to get people to, I mean, it looks like he might have a job now, so he might not be able to attend as many games as he might have a couple weeks ago when he was first let go. But maybe he knows some people. Yeah,
Chosen Rosen, didn't he throw a touchdown pass for Atlanta over the weekend? I believe he did. So
he did, yeah.
And again, we've talked about this, Shannon. I would take the Chosen Rosen over Cooper Rush, Ben DiNucci, or Garrett Gilbert. And the Chosen Rosen showed that he could throw a touchdown pass in an NFL preseason game. Then again, so did Ben DiNucci late in garbage time for the Cowboys. By the way, that is our poll question. Are you happy with the Cowboys' backup quarterback situation? Or, as we learn on Tuesday, tomorrow is cut down day, we're going to see some quarterbacks get cut loose should the Cowboys go shopping in the backup quarterback market. We will update the voting there for you coming up. Big 8 o'clock hour on the way. Looking forward to it. Highlighted just after 8:30 by UTSA head football coach Jeff Traylor, who will join us. Lots to talk about with Coach Jeff Traylor, especially after Illinois, UTSA's opening day opponent this Saturday. They opened their season a week early and really took it to Nebraska and got a big win. So lots to talk about. NFL, college football, and talk a little Astros baseball as well coming up in the 8 o'clock hour. Thanks for hanging out with us on the Chris Duel Show. Thank you, Chris Gonzalez. Cocaine as my walk-up song. That is a good question for people. What would your walk-up song be? Warren Wheeler, Dean Stone, good morning and welcome in. Everybody else on Facebook Live, thank you for being here. Caffeine, it's the wonder drug that works wonders. Anybody old like me might remember the Coffee Achiever commercials. featuring, of all people, Ken Anderson, the quarterback of the Cincinnati Bengals. Kenny Anderson with his porn stash at the time. He was a coffee achiever and like the American Coffee Council. And that was before Starbucks. Not enough people were drinking coffee in the late 70s, early 80s. So they had commercials encouraging you to be a coffee achiever. That was weird. Yeah, Jason, that's a great story. We might get into that. The Mets players booing home fans after hitting home runs. Carl Fisher, good morning. I'm just guzzling the coffee this morning. I am a coffee achiever. Ken Anderson would be really proud of me. I think they even had, God, I got to go find those on YouTube. I think they even had David Bowie in some of those commercials, which is crazy. But I guess, somebody wanted to throw some money at David Bowie. and David took it. I am a big David Bowie fan. I think he was a perfect being. Love it when I don't have what I'm looking for. Yeah, today is my email from James Taylor. Not James Taylor, but jamestaylor.com. Should you be unable to attend the rescheduled date, refunds will be honored until August 30th, 2021. I just looked at this over the weekend. The new rescheduled date for James Taylor and Jackson Brown is October 17th. Yeah, today I have to decide today. The reschedule, it was May 17th, 2020. Bought the tickets in advance. They're real Houston. It's rescheduled for October 17th. I have to, by August 30th, today, I have to either ask for a refund or I'm all in. So October 17th of this year. Yeah. And this Delta variant is not looking good. Obviously, Toyota Center is indoors. So, but they're like 6 rows up. They're really good. I got them off his website. I got real lucky. And so I don't know. I'm tempted to just let it because the seats are so good. I think that's a Sunday night. Yeah, it's a Sunday night. So if I did that, I would take the next day, Monday, October 18th off. But I'm going to take my nap today and wake up. Yeah, maybe after a good nap, I will. But I have a feeling I'm going to let it ride and hope for the best. But see, even if I think the Delta variant is too dangerous, yeah, that's a Sunday night. I may even just, my wife and I might just pull the plug and say, we don't want to be in a room full of other Texans who are breathing. True. Yeah. If he cancels or postpones again, because I know all of their I went to the site. They're playing Canada this summer. Like now, all of those shows are postponed again for a second time on this tour because Canada is much more restrictive and sensible about the coronavirus than we are. Leo Zambrano, good morning. Jackson Brown, and I love them both. I've seen them both live. Oh, that's great. Oh, that's so cool. Yeah. Yeah, I've never seen Buffett. I would love to see Buffett. Yeah. I hear half the fun for a Buffett concert is like the parking lot with the parrot heads before the show. Yeah, Leo, there's the argument for that. It's Texas. Leo says Jackson Brown is awesome live. Yeah, we saw him in Las Vegas with pretty good seats. Maybe 5 to 7 years ago. Yeah, I am it's caffeinated Dean Stone. I am a big Jackson. That's why those two guys together, when I heard they were touring together, I thought, my God, two of my faves. Where's that? So, Carl and Jason, we'll try to get into that Mets story here as well. Shannon actually has that on her list of topics, so she is ready to sound off on it.
Now, Chris Duel.
Thank you, football gods, for showering blessings upon us. Praise be to Tom Landry, to George Hallis, to Jim Thorpe, and all of the football gods on high. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Speaking of football gods, he might not be comfortable with me calling him that, but he is special. UTSA head football coach Jeff Traylor, who, if you're in Austin, spent time as an assistant coach with the Texas Longhorns. And we had him on every week during football season. Last year, his inaugural season with the UTSA Roadrunners. We'll do that again beginning today. Have him on every week to talk UTSA Roadrunners and college football. So he's going to join us in less than a half an hour at 8:35. And he is just must-listen radio, whether you're a UTSA football fan or not. He's just Mr. Football, longtime high school coach and extremely successful in the state of Texas. Went on to a really outstanding career in the college ranks, and now he has a lot of analysts looking at the UTSA Roadrunners, expecting big things this year. We'll ask him how he feels about that, and does he have to caution his players not to believe the hype until they go out and prove themselves. Well, so much to get into with Jeff Traylor of UTSA, including his phenom running back, Sincere McCormick, who a lot of people, including our good friend Andy Everett, who is the voice of UTSA athletics, Andy believes Sincere McCormick will be an NFL running back. So he's a guy to keep an eye on. Chris Duel Show with Shannon Salty Sweeney. Shannon, so much to talk about. In fact, on our live video feed, a couple of people brought this up. Jason Paniagua and Carl Fisher. Apparently, the New York Mets players are behaving a little bit strangely when it comes to their fans. What do we know about this story?
Yeah, so the Mets, not known for, baseball these days. They're usually known more for their lack of and the antics that come along with that. And those players so upset now by fans who boo them when they do not perform, that a few players have decided that when they do get a base hit, when they do hit a home run, that they turn to the fans and give them a thumbs down.
Wow.
As their way to kind of boo back at them. This became such an issue because obviously people took notes that the upper brass of the Mets had to release a statement talking about their disapproval and how they will speak to the players and ask them not to do that. Because look, these people, even though you're losers, and yes, they are booing at you, have still paid to come here and watch you perform with the hopes that you win. They are still buying your jerseys and they are still buying the concessions. Why in your right mind would you do that to them in return?
It's Shannon. I always go back to this. It's customer service. They are Mets customers. This is why management and ownership gets it. They're the people who are buying the tickets. They're the people who are buying the merchandise. And, fans have a right to boo. They don't have a right to be vulgar. They don't have a right to throw things. Obviously, some fans say horrible things to players that is just absolutely wrong. But I don't like it. And I don't think you should ever boo your own team. I would advise against it. But hey, it's New York. And other than Philadelphia or Boston, New York fans are known to be cantankerous and boo you when things don't go well. So I get it. But yeah, for players to thumbs down or, at worst flip off fans in their hometown, that ain't cool. I'm with ownership on this. And I'm even though I wouldn't boo a home team, I'm with the booing fans on this one.
Yeah, even with the Javi Bays, is one of the Mets players, was quoted saying, "When we don't get success, we're going to get booed. So the fans, are going to get booed when we get success." This is just a lose-lose for you entirely, because now when you do succeed, they're going to continue booing, or they're going to say, "You know what? This is a two sports town, okay?
Yeah.
And as much as I hate the Yankees, they aren't doing this to their fans. They're not booing their own fans. I may switch. Now I doubt it because I know that that's a really
It's
like
hardcore.
hard thing, right?
Yeah.
But to there are plenty of other teams that they could shed their allegiance to, or just stop paying to go and watch these guys. I mean, think if you're a little kid and it's your first game ever, ticket prices have dropped because again, they're not the greatest. Your dad takes you to the game. You're so excited. You're wearing your favorite player's jersey, and then he gets a base hit. And instead of cheering or whatever, he's thumbing down the play, and you make eye contact with that player while he's thumbing. You're like, why would he do that to me? Why would he do? We talked last week about the Lakers and them celebrating Kobe on his birthday in 8/24 by gifting newborns jerseys and little beanies for them and their parents. That they've got fans for life now. What are you doing, Mets? What are you doing?
Well, and I think about the Chicago Cubs for so many years. They were known as lovable losers. I mean, their fans were long suffering. There were many bad seasons for the Chicago Cubs, but they stayed with them. You make a huge point about it's a two-team town. So was and is Chicago, White Sox and Cubs, as you mentioned, Mets and Yankees. And another fan base that I recall that were later rewarded, and I don't love this team, the Golden State Warriors in the NBA. Before they emerged with Steph Curry and Klay Thompson and Draymond Green and that team built under Mark Jackson that later Steve Kerr took over, for a long time, the Warriors were not that good. However, that arena, Oracle Arena in Oakland, was known as a tough place to play because even when the Warriors were not good, the fans were there, the fans were loud, the fans were knowledgeable, the fans supported the home team through thick and thin. And I just think it's stupid, ignorant, incorrigible behavior by Mets fans to boo them. But it's even worse, as you describe, because there is that 10-year-old kid who has his favorite player who then hits the home run and is then, throwing it back in the fan's face. Yeah. So, the fans, in my book, you don't boo your home team, are wrong to boo, but the players, this is the worst wrong. They don't understand business. They don't understand customer service.
And the idea that you somehow have it in your mind that this doesn't happen to any other professional team anywhere, that they've never been booed. Even winning teams get booed, right? Your team is up in the fourth quarter and you want to see Patrick Mahomes make magic again and have another touchdown. It's 4th and 2. Just go for it. You're inside the 20. And then they trot out the field goal unit. Fans boo at that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
true.
Whether or not they should, whatever, but it happens. It's part of why you get paid the big bucks. Okay. If you can't let that kind of thing roll off, you're in a lot more trouble than you think. So the Mets upper brass apparently going to be in a team meeting today to discuss this. They haven't said they're going to punish anyone yet. Which I don't know. I guess if they're playing that poorly, like what's the punishment going to do? But no.
Yeah. And if they're smart, they'll, that there should be some sanctions moving forward against players. But if they're smart, they would keep it in house and just have a come to Jesus team closed door meeting and say, hey, and everything we just explained. Every point we just made, from a business standpoint to a customer service standpoint to the anecdote about the 10-year-old kid there with his dad who has his favorite New York Mets player who's going to hit a home run. You don't treat your fans like this. Yeah. And Shannon, I wonder, and I hope I don't have to find out, but the San Antonio Spurs, I've said this for the longest time, Spurs fans are spoiled after the Tim Duncan era. And we talked about the over-under for Spurs victories this year, and I don't normally bet, but I am betting the over because I don't believe it, because I think the Spurs are going to win 42 games this year. But the over-under for the Spurs, and we talked about it last week, is 28.5. And I see Spurs fans on Twitter and on social media, and they are so spoiled, and every team naturally goes through a few cycles, and the Spurs down cycles the last couple of years haven't been that bad, and they actually went to a play-in game that gave them an opportunity to go to the playoffs this past year, and they at one point this past year were 6 games above 500. If indeed they only won 28 games, or if indeed they went below the 28.5, I wonder how Spurs fans will behave when they see the Spurs at the AT&T Center, and I hope they would behave well.
I would hope they behave well because that's just the kind of people and fan base that they are. And also, I think you have to take in consideration, the idea that Seattle's looking for another team, or will Vegas get a team, and that San Antonio, like it or not, has kind of been a name that's been thrown out as, we could just pull the Spurs, maybe we could just relocate them. Don't give them any more ammo, right?
Well,
because I don't know where they get it to begin with, but
Mhm.
don't give them a reason by turning on your organization because you're having a few down years, because as you said, every team, every organization has ebbs and flows. Dynasties are not meant to last forever.
Well, and
they don't.
Shannon, you make a great point, and I've been reminding Spurs fans of this for years. Spurs fans believe, that could never happen here, and Spurs would never let that listen. Seattle Supersonics, they won a championship. That team found itself in Oklahoma. The Baltimore Colts that had Johnny Unitas, that won NFL championships and Super Bowls. They won Super Bowl V. In the dark of night, the Baltimore Colts packed up and went to Indianapolis. And Baltimore, now they got the Ravens, but they were without a team. The Cleveland Browns that have one of the greatest fan bases ever. Art Modell, one night in the dark of night, he moved them to Baltimore. That's how they got the Baltimore Ravens. So, these are certainly the Baltimore Colts and the Cleveland Browns in the NFL were storied franchises. I don't know if we would call the Seattle Supersonics a storied franchise, but they were a very notable franchise that did win an NBA championship. If the Spurs go through a lean period, and whenever Coach Greg Popovich steps away, we don't know who the next coach is, the next regime. A lot of people believe it would be Becky Hammon, and I hope it is. I hope she gets her shot as a head coach in the NBA. But if Spurs fans don't continue to support this team, you're right. Those are two big cities. And you could argue a bigger corporate base in Seattle and Las Vegas. And Michael Dell, now one of the investors in the Spurs. I know it's the Holt family that still runs the majority of this team and is a majority stockholder. But Spurs fans, you need to continue to be fans, win or lose. And hopefully it'll be through a lot more winning.
And I would argue, you had those great years and those championships that came with it. But getting another championship after being with this team through whatever downs they've had and might continue to have for the next couple of years, that next championship will be that much sweeter. It's like,
True.
What's like why I stay a Cowboys fan. I was alive during the last Super Bowl wins, but I wasn't of conscious age.
Yeah.
And I've been with them ever since. I don't even know that I've ever experienced the amount of joy that I might one day get to experience should they win a Super Bowl.
It is so cool.
And that's what I have to look forward to.
Yeah.
It gets me up in the morning.
Yeah. Well, and, because I'm old, I experienced the Tom Landry Super Bowls, but then you had that dip, and then Jerry Jones comes and fires Landry, and then this team goes 1-15, and there are people who believe it's not going to happen for 25 more years. And then when they did get those Super Bowl wins under Jimmy Johnson in the early 90s, it is just a tremendous feeling. Speaking of the NFL, Shannon, over the weekend as well, we learned of we've been talking about the top 100 quite a bit. And one of the stories last week was that Deshawn Watson, the current quarterback or current property of the Houston Texans, you mentioned earlier in the show, Miami might be one of his destinations. That was one of the rumors over the weekend. But one of the big stories was the fact that Deshaun Watson came in at number 18. Again, this is voted on by NFL players. So pretty legitimate voting group, the peers of these players who vote them. We learned over the weekend who the number one ranked player in the NFL is.
Surprising or not so surprising, Patrick Mahomes voted number one. He was voted number 4 last year, and he was unhappy about it, especially after he had just won the Super Bowl and won MVP. I guess he's I don't know who you would pick there, but it's hard to be like, well, he was number 4 last year after he had the year he had, and then this year after he didn't win a Super Bowl and had the injury, so wasn't as strong towards the end of the season. How does he end up being number 1? I don't know. Maybe he swayed a couple people last year in a campaign to get those spots. I mean, again, it's voted on by players. They even were showing some of the players written in scorecards where they ranked people, and someone called him Pat Holmes. Didn't even get his name right. So don't know how legit this list really is after all.
Well, and what I found interesting is number 4. Let me go. So Patrick Mahomes, number 1. Aaron Donald, number 2. I'm with you on the top 2.
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers at 3. Interesting, but number 4. Okay, I was looking at number 5. Number 4, Derrick Henry. Number 5, Travis Kelce. The number 5 player in the top 100 is Chiefs tight end Travis Kelce. Really? Are you feeling Travis Kelce ahead of the likes of Tom Brady and DeAndre Hopkins and TJ Watt and Josh Allen and even Dak Prescott? Would you rank Travis Kelce ahead of Dak Prescott? I would not.
I think so. I think you have to think of these players of, if you were to pluck them from where they are right now and put them on any other team in the NFL, what kind of immediate impact would they make? I don't see Travis Kelce being that guy on every team over the other guys that you just mentioned.
Totally agree. I mean, if Travis Kelce became a Dallas Cowboy tomorrow, yes,
Blake Jarwin though.
Yeah, we'd be a little better than Blake Jarwin at that position, but I don't think he'd be, I don't think he'd have more impact than Ezekiel Elliott or CD Lamb does, or Dak does to that offense.
And that's not a hit to Travis. I think it just speaks to how special that relationship with him and Mahomes is. But I think you pick up Mahomes and put him on any team, he makes them better.
Yes.
Whereas that same argument, and same with Aaron Donald.
And as we found out, same with Tom Brady. We found that out big time.
People probably wouldn't have argued that beforehand, but here we are. 1 year later.
What do you think
Super Bowl later?
What do you think of Aaron Rodgers at number 3?
Wasn't he number 3 on the quarterback list when they did the top 10 quarterback list? It was like Pat Mahomes, Tom Brady, and then Aaron Rodgers.
I believe so. Yeah.
So, and I don't know, now that you're doing all of these players, I don't know. I mean, again, that same theory, you take him out of Green Bay. Obviously, Green Bay is probably not in discussion for winning their division and then winning an NFC championship, whatever. But I don't know if you place him on other teams with where he is right now and the kind of things that he demands, if he gets that same respect and then has that same impact. I don't see it.
And Aaron Rodgers, 37 years old right now. So he comes in at number 3. Tom Brady came in at number 7. I think he's going to turn 44, or he is 44 now, because he wanted to play until he's 45. So I know that would be 2 more years. But it's amazing that in your top 7, Brady at number 7, Aaron Rodgers at number 3, that you got guys that are 37 or older. And again, we talk about this all the time, Shannon. It's so difficult to be an elite NFL quarterback. For these guys to be having the impact they're having on the league at this age is pretty darn amazing. It's more and more now that position at quarterback, you need to not only throw, but you need to run. And Tom Brady's never been a mobile quarterback, yet he's still Tom Brady. He's the GOAT. And while Aaron Rodgers can be very, shifty in that backfield and can shake off some potential.
He's elusive.
Exactly. Very, very much so. But amazing that those guys are still in the conversation in a big way as they are now going into this season.
And, I think of J.K. Dobbins.
Oh man,
that guy should be up there.
He was on my fantasy team. Lost for the year. My fantasy team. I was so happy.
See, my main fantasy draft is tomorrow, the one that counts. So I'm glad it's late.
See, I have a keeper league, so he was held over from last year. But J.K. Dobbins, a huge knee injury. I think a torn ACL, gone for the year.
Biggest fear of preseason for folks, and God, he's special.
Well, and somebody made the point yesterday, the same guy who covers the Cowboys, I'm forgetting which one, who said, hey, 2/3 of the Cowboys starters didn't even play in this game against the Jaguars. And oh, by the way, none of those players were injured, which is a huge point. So you got that. So if you're unhappy because Dak didn't play in preseason, well, Dak didn't get injured or injured further either. So there's that. Coming up, Jeff Traylor, UTSA head football coach, who in his second year is facing some big expectations. A lot of analysts including Dave Campbell's Texas Football Magazine, expecting big things from the UTSA Roadrunners. We'll talk about it with him coming up. Shannon Salty Sweeney, Dave Ayler making the show go. I'm Chris. We're with you till 9 on the Chris Duel Show. And I forgot tickets. My bad.
Yeah, I forgot it too.
We'll do it.
You want to do it at the end?
Yeah, if he's there, I'll tease it going into the conversation. Then we'll do it right at the end.
Okay, so you want to do it at the end then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. If for some reason he's not there, well, then you'd be calling Andy. We'll figure it out. At this point, I'll tease it as I bring him in, and we'll do it right after his conversation. My apologies. That's 2 weeks in a row I screw it up.
Yeah, I forgot it too, so don't feel bad.
Oh, I know what I need to do. I got to record a couple of spots here, just letting you know. Thanks. Check. All right. Let's see here. Yeah, I've got to record a spot. Coheed and Cambria. Yeah, Jason, I totally blew it, and we'll do it in the next segment. That was my mistake. I'm going to go mute here for a moment. I'm going to record a quick spot or two. Jeff Traylor is there on the line.
We're back. It's the Chris Duel Show with Shannon Salty Sweeney. Join in by dialing 1-800-707-9760.
And hold on to that football and that number. It's Bill. We got a great football coach, but hold on to that phone number coming up before the end of this segment. Your chance to win tickets to see Coheed and Cambria in Austin. We'll tell you when to call in. We have been talking about this all morning. It's the Chris Duel Show with Shannon Salty Sweeney. This gentleman, I had the honor of talking with him every week during football season last year, and we get to talk to him every week this year. He is the head coach of the UTSA Roadrunners. So birds up, triangle of toughness. Coach Jeff Traylor, how are you doing this morning?
Doing fantastic, Chris. Good morning.
Great to talk with you, Coach. Coach, if I was just from the outside looking in at your football program in this second year, something that occurs to me would be high expectations, at least among analysts and people who seem to know a lot about football. When I got my Dave Campbell's Texas Football Magazine, one of the first things I flipped to was the UTSA prediction, and they pick you guys to go 10-2. When you see something like that, how do you feel, and how do you talk to your players about high expectations like that?
Well, it's pretty simple. Those same people picked us last year. So I wouldn't put too much stock into any of that. It's obviously much better to be expected to go 10-2 than 2-10. Like they were predicted us last year. But our mantra this year is going to be, as the expectations rise, our culture has to match it. It's pretty predictable. We're returning 21 starters out of 22. We could have been 12-0 last year. We were in every single ball game, but honestly, we could have been 2-10. We were in a lot of our wins were very, very close wins. It came down to the very last play of the game. And I wouldn't expect much different this year. Everybody's got everybody returning. We're proud of our 12 super seniors. Illinois has 21 super seniors returning, which is the most in the country. They also have 41 seniors on their roster. So we're excited about everybody being excited about us, but we also are going to take that with a grain of salt.
Coach, in recent you talked about that excitement as well as some nervous energy with players. How do you harness that in preparation for a game against Illinois, who just had a great showing against Nebraska this past weekend?
Now, we talked a lot about that, just about this week, about how the brain works. You know, we have instincts in our brain. We have, the ability to think, but also we're emotional people. And the more the emotion goes up, the less your ability to think happens, and then your instincts are gone. So we had to maintain a calmness, breathe, be in the moment. This will be our first time to go on the road together in a real road game experience. If you watch the game, they had a great crowd. Their band was rocking the entire time. And I really hope we can get the Alamo Dome back that way again so we can have that tremendous home field advantage like we're going to go to Illinois and experience.
Coach, and we're speaking with UTSA head football coach Jeff Traylor. You know, you and Shannon talking about Illinois, and they had the big win over Nebraska. Nebraska came in favored to win in that one, at least. Again, analysts thought Nebraska would win that game. And Illinois, even though they lost their starting quarterback very early in that game, really continued to play well, built a big lead, and hung on to that lead. As you watched Illinois play, what were some of the things, Coach, that jumped out at you about that Illinois football team offensively and defensively that you think your team will have to really focus on to beat them on Saturday?
Well, it starts with Coach Bielema. It looks just like all of his teams have looked. He won 3 Big Ten championships at Wisconsin, took Arkansas to 3 bowl games. Very first game back against Nebraska. It starts up front. This will never happen again probably in college football. The right tackle's a 5-year starter. The center is a 5-year starter. The left tackle's a 5-year starter. And he's going to run the pill. I mean, they play Big Ten football. They're extremely, extremely strong. They're a very veteran team. They're going to try to muscle us up and run it right down our throat, which they did in Nebraska. And he's done his entire career.
We talk about running the ball down their throat. Talk about your running back, Sincere McCormick. He obviously had a huge season last year. He's looking to have another great one. How early will you look to get him going, and how often do you expect to hand him the ball?
It's a great question. They're going to load the box up. That's how they played against Nebraska. But you don't want to take the ball out of your best player's hands just because they've got more guys in there than you do. So obviously we plan on getting the ball to him early and often. That's where our offense starts. But it's not just Sincere. We believe in that. I know we always talk about triangle toughness. But we want to be extremely physical on defense. We want to run the ball as a team. But we want to throw the score. We're going to throw the ball down the football field. We believe strong in that. And obviously the third phase of that triangle is our special team. So our kids buy into that. Our tight ends, our running backs that are blocking for him. Our receivers, our quarterbacks carrying out their faith. There's more to it than just Sincere out there, but he is a heck of a back. And Brendan Brady's a really good back as well. You could see him very much last year because he was injured all year.
UTSA head football coach Jeff Traylor with us. And Coach, talking about the offense here for just a moment. At quarterback, there's been speculation over the summer. You've got some really good quarterbacks, including Frank Harris out of Schertz and Josh Adkins out of Spring Branch. Do you see one quarterback emerging as the guy who's going to lead this team, or do you see it as maybe a situation where you might, depending on the game situation, maybe use more than one quarterback in a football game?
I don't really like to play that way. I think it's a tough position to play when you're always looking to the sideline. I'd rather not play that way. I do have 2 unique situations because they're both such great people. They don't care. They just want to win the game. They're both lowered into single digits. Josh will be wearing 8 this year. Frank will be back in 0. Both chosen the leadership council. So both of those kids have tremendous respect for their teammates. Loyal Narcisse, who's still recovering from that injury last year. We had to play 4 quarterbacks last year, so I don't have much empathy towards Illinois just losing 1 quarterback. When they get to number 4, they can hop. We might have to empathize with them a little bit.
Coach Traylor, I love this time of year. It's not just about getting real life action, meaningful football on the field, but it's also scholarship season. And before y'all's walkthrough on Saturday, Cade Stover, wide receiver, was awarded a scholarship. Tell us about that, and tell us about the kind of guy he is for your team.
Well, we've been studying the U because in the 80s, they were an upstart program. Didn't have a lot of money. Nobody really knew who they were. New program. A bunch of local kids stayed home and flipped the U. Now everybody knows the U. So we've been studying them. We're trying to get our kids to buy into that. If we could do the same thing here in San Antonio to jumpstart our city. And Coach Coker, coached to do a national championship. So he's been a friend of our program. He started our program. He's up here as often as he can be. He sits up here in my office and watches practice right from my window. And we had him come in and speak to us about the similarities of the U and UTSA. And we let him award that scholarship to Cade. Coach Coker was a walk-on, and Cade just exemplifies what a walk-on's all about. High IQ, high character, shows up every day. It was a total shock to Cade, and we were thrilled to help a young man like Cade Stover.
Such a great story. He is UTSA head football coach Jeff Traylor as we talk about the opener coming up against Illinois this Saturday evening in Champaign. And Coach, you talked about, Frank Harris wearing number 0, Josh Adkins wearing number 8, and those single digits, which are so coveted and so important in your football program. And I know there's probably some people listening. We air in Austin on AM 1300 The Zone, in addition to Ticket 760 in San Antonio. For people who don't know the significance of earning a single digit on your jersey at UTSA, could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's just the kids that won them last year, we rip them off of them in the spring. They wear maybe their old high school number, whatever they want to wear in the spring and the summer, and most of all count. It's that last scrimmage, and then we vote. And the kids that have the top votes on the team get to wear the single digits. And whoever has the very most votes gets to wear the 2, the 1, and the 0 to symbolize how important recruiting in San Antonio is and working our way out from San Antonio. So our culture pillars, which our kids know at the back of their hand, that's what's voted on. If those kids have almost single-digit numbers, they should be our very best representatives of what our brand looks like. And our kids know, from the time they get here, that what branding is when image and likeness match. It doesn't matter if you say a bunch of stuff, but you don't live it. That's not a brand. Our brand is triangle toughness. We want to be people of integrity, with passion, mental and physical toughness, selfless with perfect effort. And we're going to try to win today, every day. So those kids that are in those jerseys best personify that for our program. And it's fun to make those calls. But what's crushing is when you got to make those calls to those kids that were so close that didn't quite get in the jersey number. So that's always rough on those kids. But they all bounce back, and they're going to wear their number with pride.
And Coach, as you mentioned just a few moments ago, Illinois, especially just watching them on Saturday, beating Nebraska, so much experience, especially offensively and on that offensive line. And as you said, they play Big Ten football. For the UTSA Roadrunners, opening up on the road against a team that has had a pretty good legacy over the years. Illinois certainly in the Big Ten, which is obviously big-time football. What is the mindset and what is the confidence level of your football team as it gets ready to fly over to Champaign and play this game on Saturday evening?
Well, we take great pride in our own selves, too. We're going to give them their respect. Obviously, you're going into a hostile environment in the Big Ten, but we're proud of the way we play, too. And we hang our hats on the triangle, we'll travel, and we're going to show up. We're going to show up. We don't talk about winning and losing very much around here, but it is very important the way we play the game. And we believe in our brand's on the field. We have a really good chance to win the football game. And our brand's going to show up. We will be physical. We're going to run the football. We're going to hit them. And we've got 2 great kickers ourselves. Everybody talks about their All-American punter and their All-Big Ten kicker, but I like my kicker and punter as well.
Should be a great game, and of course we'll have it for you on Ticket 760 Saturday night, 6:30 kickoff. UTSA at Illinois at Memorial Stadium in Champaign, Illinois. Andy Everett with the call, and of course for more UTSA football coverage, the first Jeff Traylor show of the season will be this Wednesday here on Ticket 760, Wednesday at 6:30, and tune in. You can also go to the Sandbox, which is out near UTSA at 7280 UTSA Boulevard, and you can be a part of it. UTSA head football coach Jeff Traylor. Coach, we are so excited. Congratulations on what was a great first year, and keep on keeping on, and best of luck to you all season long, Coach. We will certainly be watching, listening, and cheering for you. Thanks for taking the time this morning.
Chris, thank you. Since December the 9th when I got hired, I've been telling everybody it's going to take all of us. And we need everybody to be in the Alamo Dome when our kids come back home on September the 11th. I hope you're watching the game Saturday night. But if not, we'll see y'all next Saturday at the Alamo Dome.
We will bang that drum and be there, Coach. Thanks so much, Coach, and birds up.
Appreciate y'all giving us the time. anytime. God bless. Birds up.
Amen. God bless and birds up. Shannon, I love that guy. He is
Great.
he is a quintessential college football, Texas college football head coach. He's just tremendous.
Yeah, I haven't looked at the schedules exactly, but I need to find my way to the Alamo Dome.
Oh gosh, yes. Let's make that happen. So yeah, I got to go with you to DKR Memorial Stadium and catch the Longhorns, and you got to come down here and catch the UTSA Roadrunners. All right, before I forget about it for a second time this morning, Shannon, we got these Coheed and Cambria tickets. They are coming to the Germania Insurance Amphitheater in Austin on September 4th. What caller would you like to give these tickets to?
I'm going to make it easy on Dave because it is a tight turnaround. So we're going to go caller number 3. Got to be fast. 1-800-707-9760 for Coheed and Cambria. And that show is this weekend.
That's this week. That's right. September 4th is this weekend. What am I thinking?
And you're totally free to go because Texas plays at 3:00. So you can do both if you're in town.
Very, very cool. All right, Shannon, we talked about the Dallas Cowboys to open up the show, and we should. We talked about the backup quarterback situation, and it was what motivated our poll question this morning.
Yes, sir. Now that the preseason is over, are you happy with the Cowboys' backup quarterback situation? 81% saying no, find a better backup. So not a lot of confidence back there. And hopefully it's not something we'll ever need. I mean, let's get that out of the way. We are not hoping to see a backup quarterback unless it is garbage time for the Dallas Cowboys this season.
But you do need that insurance policy. It's like you can drive your car and hope you never need car insurance, but you really, really should have car insurance. To me, that's what it is. A backup quarterback is. So how do you feel, Shannon? How do you answer that question? Are you cool with probably Garrett Gilbert and then Cooper Rush or Ben DiNucci, or would you like to see somebody else as number 2?
If this was earlier in the year, I probably would have said, fine, go get somebody else who's a little bit more of a vet, because I think at this point, preseason is over. You're going to end up in the same situation, whether you have a vet back there or not, who hasn't been running the system the way that these guys who have been in camp and have had those preseason reps. So they're probably your best bet at this point.
And I just got a text from Andy Everett. I gave the wrong time on the Jeff Traylor show on Ticket 760. It is Wednesday at 7 to correct the record. So there you have it. Dave Ayler, you don't have a winner already, do you? Stephen Hooper, congratulations.
I like that name.
That's a great name. So are we giving these away all week long, Shannon?
Yes, sir.
Woo! So if you didn't win Coheed and Cambria tickets, try again tomorrow. We'll do it all week, and that show is on Saturday. Shannon, outstanding as always. Let's do it again tomorrow. Why the heck not?
I'll be here.
All right, good.
I'll
Dave
be
Ayler,
here.
Good. Dave Ayler, you going to be here?
Yes, I'll be here tomorrow.
Beautiful. Just do it again. We'll have more to talk about in the world of sports.
Not doing
Thanks
anything else.
to UTSA head football coach Jeff Traylor. Cut day is tomorrow in the NFL. That's going to be huge. We'll be all over that as well. Thanks for listening to the Chris Duel Show. Woo! I agree, Louisa. We need a better backup. Y'all